If you're an animator, you've probably come across something called the 12 principles of animation. They are considered the fundamental guidelines of the craft and a staple of animation theory and studies. There are plenty of guides online explaining them. Generally, these guides start out strong with good descriptions of the practically applicable ones such as squash and stretch and anticipation, but by the time they've reached appeal, they've either run out of time, interest or steam. So what is appeal? Let's see how the authors themselves define it. The word is often misinterpreted to suggest cuddly bunnies and soft kittens. To us it meant anything that a person likes to see, a quality of charm, pleasing design, simplicity, communication and magnetism. Your eye is drawn to the figure that has appeal, and once there it is held while you appreciate what you are seeing. A striking heroic figure can have appeal. A villainess, even though chilling and dramatic, should have appeal. Otherwise you will not want to watch what she is doing. The ugly and repulsive may capture your gaze, but there will be neither the building of character nor identification with the situation that will be needed. There is shock value, but no story strength. A weak drawing lacks appeal. A drawing that is complicated or hard to read lacks appeal. Poor design, clumsy shapes, awkward moves, all are low on appeal. Spectators enjoy watching something that is appealing to them, whether an expression, a character, a movement, or a whole story situation. While the live actor has charisma, the animated drawing has appeal. Further into the chapter on appeal they write, "Delicate expressions can be misinterpreted to everyone's confusion, and attempting too much refinement can make the drawing so restrained or involved that no communication is possible. Only simple and direct attitudes make good drawings, and without good drawings we have little appeal." Placing it at the bottom of the list poses a few questions. Why hasn't it been better defined? Why is it last? Weighing in on this question is animator Alexander Williams, noted for his work on the character Scar in Disney's The Lion King. Appeal is really about making things pleasing, making things enjoyable to look at, and ultimately if your work isn't appealing, you've got nothing worth seeing. And in a way, this is the most important of the principles, because if your stuff doesn't appeal, then in the end no one really wants to watch it. If appeal is that important, shouldn't it be on top of the list? Ask yourself this: would you start animating something, designing a walk cycle and defining a quality of stretchiness before you even know your character and what you want it to convey? We want that quality that draws the eyes, and not just because it's the only thing currently on screen. Let's go back and take another look at the illusion of life. Tucked away in the descriptions of the other principles, we find that they all actually contain building blocks for creating appeal. The difference is that they call it real, relatable, natural or spirited. Here are some passages from the other principles. This must be done with the pose to pose because each of the positions must be handled carefully for maximum clarity, appeal and communication. When used correctly, secondary actions will add richness to the scene, naturalness to the action, and a fuller dimension to the personality of the character. Neither acting nor attitude could be portrayed without paying very close attention to timing. Luckily, smarter people than me have already discovered this and come up with interesting interpretations. Appeal is the culmination of the previous principles. Appeal is what you strive for, it's not a principle in of itself. To have appeal be a goal rather than a principle makes sense, since it needs the previous principles to communicate the idea of the character. But instead of throwing away the principle altogether, let's expand it instead and place it at number 1 on the list. Why? There's a lot to consider in character design, and animation isn't just about making primary shapes move convincingly. But if appeal is to be the starting point, we need to ask the big question: appealing to whom? The world is a patchwork of cultures. Preferences vary from country to country. Color preference vary from person to person. Different age groups are appealed by different things. How can we possibly create something that is appealing to everybody? I'm honestly not sure if we can. I think the main goal should be to optimize the appeal for your target audience. Now that we know what appeal means, can such an incredibly subjective concept translate into something useful? Can you really just create appeal? How to create appeal? To create appeal, we need to know what our audience likes to see. It's good to have a certain person or target demographic in mind when creating something. Never fall into the trap of thinking you can make something that everyone will love. If you want to appeal to everyone, you'll be faced with conflicting preferences. We need to look at how the professionals do it. Studying the masters of animation is great, but to get a holistic understanding, we need to leave our comfort zones and look at the neighboring fields of character design, game design, writing and acting. All of these disciplines have evolved to deal with similar problems independent of each other. We could learn a thing or two from these other fields and add their tools to our own workflows. The 12 animation principles are a great foundation, but to further flesh out our characters and add appeal, consider the following ones as additions. Style. Will you pick a cartoony, stylized, efficient, flat-colored, or realistic approach? It's all down to taste, preference, and function. Proportions. This ties into weight distribution and mass, and impacts movement and secondary actions. Where is the character's center of gravity? Are they top-heavy or bottom-heavy? Posture and stance. What attitude do you want to convey? Are they straight-backed and serious, or slouched and laid back? Scale and size. A person can look immense placed next to a house or microscopic next to an ant. Stage your scenes and perspective to make the most of the difference in size if characters are on the extreme ends of the spectrum. Shape language. Shape language, or its more academic name, semiotics, deal with the preconceptions of symbols and colors. If you want to show that someone is dangerous, exaggerate their pointy features to get that point across. This signals sharpness and the probability of harm. Contrastingly, rounder shapes seem friendlier and more inviting. Silhouette. Design and pose your character so that even their silhouettes are recognizable. The audience should be able to tell from a silhouette what kind of nature the character has. Symmetry is an important part of appeal, but sometimes the lack of symmetry can create interesting silhouettes. And speaking of symmetry, the one big mistake Thomas and Johnston warn against making is twinning. Twinning is when you pose characters so that they mirror symmetrically on both sides of their bodies. It gives a wooden quality and feels unnatural. The eyes are key to communicating a lot of human and inhuman emotion. If you design a character with peppercorn eyes, can you reliably convey the range of expressions and emotions you'll need? The opposite can also be a problem where really big eyes, as in certain styles of manga, require you to decipher large pools of colored water and what expressions they want to communicate. Beauty and efficiency of communication can be conflicting ideals. This is where Thomas and Johnston would recommend simplification to make readability easier and increase magnetism. Color. Color sets the mood of a character. Are they serious or fun? Bright and cheery or dark and brooding? The texture of the character can also be important for its appeal. Think about the difference it would make if your character went from fuzzy to rubbery. What if it was slimy or maybe sweaty from a workout? There's a lot of personality and story you can tell through the texture of a character. Movement characteristics. This ties in with timing, but can also deal with flourish and personality. What's your character like? Slow and lethargic, or hyperactive and bouncy? Personality. If we want to create appeal in our characters, we'll need to understand them on a deeper plane. We need to figure out what makes them tick and what their goals are. We need to be able to relate their dreams, wishes and fears to the audience, to make them emphasize and feel a connection with the character, a sense of relatability. Settings and mood. A lot of mood can be set with the use of interesting settings and locales. Create places in a story that highlight aspects of the character that depend on certain environments. Afraid of the dark? Can't swim? The setting is a great way to showcase this without relying on telling instead of showing. Interacting with scenery make characters feel like they're part of the world. A character is never done, and there's always more to explore. From their childhoods to favorite dishes, the experiences that made them into who they are. Give your characters arcs, let them rise and fall, let them develop and put them in strange new roles and situations. Animation as a medium has come a long way since the 12 principles were conceived. So what do you think appeal is? And what is appealing to you?